And right now we have running for Hernando County Sheriff a constitutional lover and a freedom lover and a liberty lover and a great American patriot, Mr. James Terry.
Hello, everybody. First, let me just say, these are my kind of people right here, for sure. I normally do all my campaign stuff out of my head, but this ain't about me today. It's about the Second Amendment. So I'll try to keep it mostly on that, but obviously the reason I was invited to speak today is because I am running for sheriff, and a lot of people have concerns about whether their Second Amendment rights are going to be protected if I'm fortunate enough to be elected. So we'll touch on that a little bit today. But it's real easy to pick a political position when you say it works for you. We obviously have a heavy Republican county, so I could get up here and say I support the Second Amendment all day long, and everybody would say that because it suits them and it works, and it's definitely the right thing to say in this crowd and group. But instead of just taking that carbon copy cutter approach, I'll take you back a little bit in time and personalize it for you, if you guys would indulge me in that. Appreciate it. First I go back to, the flag is a big part of all of us. I believe everybody here would support our flag. And I remember when it first became important to me as a young boy, I happened to knock over my father's flag, and right about the time I was picking it up and putting it back up, my father come around the corner and he seen what had happened, and he asked me about it, and he quickly told me, "No, son, you can't put that flag up." He says, "That flag hit the ground. We can't do that." So he continued to educate me right there on the importance of the flag, told me what it meant for him, showed me some of the scars he had from serving and representing that flag, and that's when it really hit me how important it was, because the seriousness of that conversation. And it always stuck with me. It always meant something to me. And whether it was talking about the flag or talking about our country, we were raised with firearms. We were raised, some of the best memories I have was my father and I target shooting, him teaching me how to hunt, how to use firearms, how to use them safely, and the fact that he served and so many before him served to give us that right and the importance of it. So it was instilled in me from a very young child, that the importance of it. Now, later in life, when I was about 20 years old, unfortunately my wife at the time was attacked and nearly murdered. And I can tell you it was a terrible thing to go through. It reverberated through our entire family. And, I often ask myself, had she had a gun, would it have been differently? Would it have gone differently? Would there have been less physical infliction of damage and pain? I don't know. But I can tell you, by God, every woman needs to be able to have the right to defend themselves and not have to be abused and threatened or injured by men who are more powerful. And, having gone through that, I knew right then I needed to help serve and protect people. And that led me to get into law enforcement. I knew after what we went through and the effects it had on our family that I needed to serve and I needed to help people. And I always had a passion to seek justice. And it served me very, very well, 22 years in law enforcement. And I still have that passion. I still have that empathy for the victims of what they've gone through. And, the path I took in law enforcement, one of the things that I really did quite a bit of and became a bit of an expert on was investigations, particularly search warrants, and I wrote a lot of legal documents. And one of the things that I learned really quickly when writing legal documents and interpreting laws and constitution and spending hundreds of hours reading those things and you guys are going to know exactly where I'm going with this. I learned what shall means. What shall means doesn't mean maybe or suggested. Shall in legal terms means it's definite. So when we're talking about the Second Amendment and our rights shall not be infringed, that's exactly what it means. There's no flexibility, there's no ambiguity. That's exactly what it means. And I can tell you I hold that dear, and that's always what I will hold dear. So with that, that kind of brings us to what we got going on right now. We got people within the government that spied on our president. They spied on American citizens. And we're supposed to have 100% trust and confidence in our government, but yet we know these things have happened. Again, I go back to, why did the framers put it in the Constitution, our right to bear arms? It's to protect us on all fronts. Whether it's that bad person or whether it's that rogue government, that's why we were given that right. And that's why it's so crucial. We're seeing it every single day, the erosion of things in this country. We have a presidential candidate who, if you listen to the polls, they say he's going to win. The candidate running for president on the Democrat side, the polls all say he's going to win. And he proudly stands there and says, I'm going to take away their AR-14s. Yeah, I knew you guys would laugh about that. But I will say, on a serious note, that's exactly the type of government control and overreach that the Second Amendment was written for. That's exactly why it is there. It can never be allowed to happen. And if I'm fortunate enough to be your sheriff, I assure you it never will happen. So on top of the government issues we talked about, now we got anarchists taking over sections of an entire town and running the police and taking over their precincts and basically kicking them out of the neighborhood and setting up whatever they call them, autonomous zones. Well, I can tell you this, that those police substations, districts, whatever you want to call them, they're the home for those deputies, just like your home is a home for you. And you don't never let anybody come into your home and run you out. And we will never let anybody come into our home and run us out. It's not going to happen. So with that, I just bring these things to your attention to stress the importance of why we are here today. And people need to get out, and they need to speak, and they need to be heard. And groups like this coming together are wonderful to support our rights, because there are people out there that want to take them. And it's groups like this that are going to make sure it doesn't happen. And it's people like us that band together to make sure that it's never going to happen. And pay attention to what's going on in your county. Pay attention to what's going on in your state. I mean, think about how close we were to having a Democrat elected for governor last go-round. It was really, really close. And what happened shortly thereafter? He's in a hotel room with meth and all kinds of crazy stuff. And, that guy was governor. You could have easily seen laws written that are going to take away your Second Amendment rights to own weapons. And I can tell you right now, that could happen in the future. You could get that governor. So you need to make sure that you have a sheriff in place who's going to say, no, that's unconstitutional. We're not going to do it. And that's exactly what I will do. I can tell you that. And pay attention to, as I said, to your local races. It's real easy to say, I support the Second Amendment. And we hear some of that, or you might hear certain politicians, I'm not going to name any names, that will say you support it but won't come to something like this and stand here and strongly advocate for it and say the things that I'll say. You need people that are going to stand up and are going to say what they feel, what they mean, and the people need to know that they can take that to the bank. It comes from the heart, and you have no problem staying firm in your beliefs. Those are the people you need. I hope that we can fill our county with those type of people. I hope that I can earn you people's votes, and I hope that we can continue to move forward to make Hernando County great. And I want to thank everybody for allowing me to come up here and speak. It's a blessing, and I've enjoyed it tremendously. Thank you all very much.